And with that being said, we're going to move to album number 2. Certainly not as commercially successful. Doesn't necessarily mean better or worse, but another one of Matt's favorites. An album that is not on streaming services. It's on YouTube.
It's
American
nonsense.
Music Club, California. So
this
Josh
comes in
gets
at
the first take, but yep, go ahead.
I'll run the numbers and then Josh can go. So this American Music Club's California comes in at number 563 in the 1980s on Best Ever Albums, number 50 in 1988, number 3,672 of all time. It is American Music Club's highest rated album on Best Ever Albums. It did not make Rolling Stone's list, and American Music Club is ranked number 1,449 of overall artist rankings on Best Ever Albums.
All right, Josh, what did you think?
Yeah, so another artist I had not heard of before, and I can definitely see kind of the influence of them, or at least the sonic, lineage to later artists. I would classify them as purely like Americana type of music. They really cross over between, they've got some country sound to them and rock and a little bit of folk. All mixed and melded together in their albums. I would say overall this album is kind of mellow, probably too mellow for me. I didn't really. It brings an energy that is pretty laconic, and they're not. It's not kind of hard rock at all. I would say that they're more chill than anything else. But they also kind of reminded me of different artists like the Avett Brothers somewhat. I got some Neil Young, especially in like a song like Now You're Defeated, and kind of a hearkening back to some 60s sound as well. And even something like Sufjan Stevens, I kind of got a vibe from this on it. And I would say that, lyrically they're kind of dealing with down and out type of personality or character, and something like Bad Liquor, which has got this bluesy feel to it. That's probably actually my favorite song on this album. And then they also go acoustic sometimes too on a song like Jenny. So they really have I think overall the kind of melding of the genres and I guess that was ultimately, this wasn't my favorite album of the ones we've listened to. Actually, it's probably my least favorite of all of these. And there was something missing from it for me. I think either the energy or just kind of the instrumentation. It's primarily guitar and the basic 4-person setup. I think that's all that's in the band. But yeah, this album was a thumbs in the middle to me. It didn't blow me away, but it was certainly listenable.
Yeah, this a couple things. This album is defined to me by the pedal steel. I think it's almost impossible to uncouple this album from that pedal steel sound. So I think that's where, if you haven't heard this album, when Josh is saying like the Americana and stuff like that, that is definitely the tie-in. I would say lyrical content and mood of the album is sort of forlorn boozy. I would describe it a little bit. Like this is, that confessional, melancholic, about love and life and loss and spinning those types of stories pretty consistently. In that sense, while they don't sound exactly like it, they sort of occupy the same lane as a band like The National does in terms of lyrical content and general mood to me a little bit. They also have what would become, I think, a lot more prevalent, not just in sort of those roots rock Americana type acts that Josh mentioned, like Avett Brothers and Wilco, stuff like that, but also things like Bright Eyes and stuff like that type sort of vibe, while not an exact fit, is here as well. That sound, when it's an entire album for me, can get a little long in the tooth for me, because I feel like they're playing the same trick over and over again on the album a couple times. And while I enjoyed this album and thought some of the songwriting was actually resonated with me quite a bit, both lyrically and also just the sound of the lyrics with the actual music, I do think that after a while I kind of was looking for another trick that sort of never came, and a little bit more either sophistication or energy. Like I got a little bit, like the song Bad Liquor was a nice little change of pace in terms of coming at a different angle, and it was amusing to me. I did read somewhere that a lot of the people who like the band do not really love that song very much. I did think the song Blue and Gray Shirt was particularly good. I kind of listened to it with the lyrics turned on the YouTube captions, and it was definitely about a death. And then I found out later that it was actually about a friend of the songwriters who died of AIDS. And it's a very well written song, and really resonates. So that's one I'd check out if you like lyrics quite a bit. But I as I was listening, I was laughing, and I don't want to talk format, but I was like, boy, this is a Matt album right here. So like, I am curious, Matt, to hear if this one ascends up a level maybe higher than it did for Josh and I. I have some other thoughts too, but I want to kind of bring Matt in because some of it I want to ask him maybe some questions or feed off of his response. So what'd you think, Matt?
Well, it has a lot of the hallmarks of a Matt album, but I'm with you guys. I wasn't really feeling this, which I was kind of disappointed in, because off the bat, I thought the beginning was pretty good. I liked, Firefly and Somewhere. I thought that was. I said, okay, I think this could be something that I will get down to. And the more it just went on, the more I listened to it, I was finding not a whole lot to really grab onto. I found a lot of it kind of. I mean, you guys used a lot of good descriptors for this. I found it meandering at times. I found it a little bit of a slog. I found it a little bit. I don't mind melancholy, acoustic, sad bastard music. It's not, that's, and it's perfectly encapsulated by the song Western Sky, which I think is a great song. That might be my favorite on this record. And it's hard for me to describe because it's not like that song sounds terribly different from a lot of the other songs on this. It's just that there's something about the chord progression and just what they're doing with the guitar that resonated a little bit more with me than some of the other things on here. It's all of that stuff you guys said, Americana, a lot of the other bands that you were drawing from, I would probably agree with. I thought a lot of times his voice sounded like Evan Dando from the Lemonheads. I was definitely getting a little bit of an Evan Dando vibe here, but
it's a nice voice. It's pleasant.
Sure. And there's some interesting guitar parts here. But it's just, for 12 songs at like, however, I don't know, what is it, 47 minutes or 50 minutes, something like that. It just the more I listened to this, the more I was just thinking, I don't need to listen to this. I don't, I do like Americana. I do, like the acoustic, folky, kind of sound. It's just that for whatever reason, that the structure of a lot of these songs just didn't really hit with me. It just, kind of seemed boring, to be quite honest. So I'm going to go so far as to give this a thumbs down because I should. This is what I like, and this just really did. This would not be a record if somebody asked me to kind of point them in a direction of a kind of an Americana singer songwriter folky type there's no way I would come even close to this. I think that there's way more things that you could come at me with, and maybe the genius here, or the best part of this album is in the lyrics, and that props to them.
I'm sure the strongest part. Yeah.
I'm sure the lyrics are great, but for me as a pretty much a non-lyrics person, that's not why I am here or why I listen to music. I couldn't. This was a little bit of a snooze for me, and I was disappointed. So because of that contrast. Of a it's like the opposite of the Bobby Brown thing, right? It's like a genre that's not my thing that really like I connected with versus a genre that I typically do connect with and really like, and just doing very little for me. I gotta go thumbs down here. I was expecting more.
Yeah.
Well, it has a little bit of Leonard Cohen in it too, like Pale and Skinny Girl.
Yeah,
feels like a Leonard Cohen song, and I felt a little bit like how I felt about those Leonard Cohen albums we covered in the '60s, where there were bits and pieces I liked, and I can see where if you're in a certain type of mood or it connects with you, the tales, right, and especially that romantic feel while also sad romantic, it's there, but it just left me searching for more, for sure. Yeah. So I'm not gonna go that maybe as quite a thumbs down as you, but I'd say a slight tilt down a little bit for me.
Yeah. Well, I'm seeing here that Wikipedia, one of the genres is called slowcore, or also interchangeable with sadcore. So in the realm of Joshcore, those are not in his wheelhouse.
They just put core in front of anything, like,
Well, it's its own Wikipedia page.
Pedal steel.
Yeah. Which totally makes sense, because they to describe slowcore as songs featuring minimal backing, slow speeds, depressing lyrics, or downbeat melodies. So
minimalist arrangements.
Like core? Yeah. What is the core needed for? Like, why not just call it like slow? It's like core and wave are the two things you can put at the end.
It's like
of everything.
Hardcore.
It says here it began in the early '90s as an act of rebellion against the predominant energy and aggression of grunge.
Yeah. Slowcore is not something I want in my music, so it's going to be
well ahead of that. Grunge wasn't even really happening yet. It was just like
maybe retroactively applied.
Retroactive slowcore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pre-slowcore. Proto, right? Proto-slowcore.
Proto-core? Proto-slowcore?
Yeah, proto-slow. Proto-SC.
Yeah.
We just make up all of our own terms. We should just, every album. The CTS album database.
This isn't a post-punk.
This was
flashcard.
A Pitchfork.
It's a Pitchfork.
This was a Pitchfork albums of the 80s. Which when I say that, I think both of you guys would go, like it's definitely.
I mean, I get it.
80s.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really doesn't sound like an 80s record. Like, a lot of the music that we're talking about here.
No, it doesn't for sure.
Is stuff that was coming out in the the 90s and even stuff that's coming out today, so I guess in that sense it's a little bit, it stands out in the time that it came out, so props to them for that. It's just, I don't know, it's it can be so much better than this for me anyways. But I will say Western Sky was a song I really liked. I thought that was solid. I thought Firefly and Somewhere, the first two tracks, were pretty decent. Bad Liquor, I think, probably was a little bit, that was nice, but that song didn't do a whole lot for me. And just Jenny, Highway 5, it's just like, okay. It's like, I equate it to a little bit of also Sun Kill Moon, stood out, was a little bit of a comparison point here. And that's another artist. I think we're going to cover them or him at some point. Which there's some of his stuff that I love, and some of his stuff I'm like, oh my God, turn this off, So I think it can be a fine line between the two of those for me with this type of music.
I do love how all music usually does word salad for their things, but it has album themes and album moods for this. So album themes only has 5 things. Ready? Breakup, heartache, jealousy, reflection, introspection. Which and album moods. Angst-ridden, brooding, cathartic, bittersweet, plaintive, somber, sad, and melancholy. So that should, if you haven't listened to this, that should give you an idea of, the theme of the album, which is not necessarily a bad thing for me, but it carries universally throughout this without having it doesn't seem like it's tied to a specific relationship ending or a, event, right? It's sort of more just a general mood as opposed to you know what I'm saying, there's variations of the theme. This seems that the theme is sadness and then you project it out. So
this was also a 1001 album we have to hear before we die. I'm seeing
okay.
On this. Yep.
Gotcha.
I'm going down the slowcore rabbit hole, and it seems like
quickly on this segment. Yes. Yeah.
It seems like the band Low is a pretty well-known band for this genre, and Galaxy 500 seem to be.
And we're covering both of them.
Two standouts, so we'll see if that comes back. There's also an article for 10 essential slowcore albums, so I'm not going to be listening to any of those. So.
Weekend
I still think it can be good. It's not the genre itself; it's just the way that these songs are done. I'm probably going to be fine with slowcore. There are certain variations of it, but just not this one.
Yeah,
gotcha.